I miss this, man. It's been a while.
Yeah. I mean, we still got to run from the skeptic police, but here, catch.
It's a cardio. Thank you. Let's rock.
Yep, I'm ready for the show.
Sorry to the audience that just heard me belch.
Huh, that took a while.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody!
Hello and welcome to Talk Heathen.
I'm Eric Murphy.
I'm Jamie Boone.
Today is November 4th, 2018. It is season 2, episode 24, or episode 40. It is episode 44. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I have been gone a while.
Yep.
I missed you, man.
I missed you
I
too.
missed you.
And I missed this.
This is the part of the week that I look forward to every week, and I'm just so happy to be back.
Seeing me?
Well, yeah.
Oh,
and
that was a
seeing
long
all
pause.
of you.
That was a long pause right there. Yeah, no, I get it. You just want the call.
I see. Well, you know what's funny is we were getting the lines ready, and we had a huge hiccup and lost everyone. So call
my gosh,
in.
yes.
Now is the time to call. 512-686-0279. Also, if you want to call online, are we still doing that backdoor link through the Atheist Experience? If you go to call the show on the Atheist Experience's website, you should be able to call online for free.
Unless something has changed. Yeah.
I think we're good.
Yeah.
But before we get started, I've got some announcements. I've been out for a while. I went to some conventions. I got to meet Richard Dawkins. I got to meet James Randi. I got to meet Stephen Fry and George Robb and some of the amazing people at SciCon. It's just been an absolute blast, and I missed you all. I'm happy to be back, but man, it has been wild. I have been traveling.
It's been a wild blast. So the ACA has some announcements.
Yes.
The second premiere specialing episode, we're still figuring out what to call them, of Parenting Beyond Belief, mug seen below with Muhammad taking a very relaxing lean back in it, premieres again as a second premiere show tonight after the Atheist Experience. So watch the Atheist Experience or tune in at the end to and just stay on that same live stream where you can watch the second premiere episode of Parenting Beyond Belief. It's a fantastic show. It's our latest premiere. You should check it out. You should subscribe. The same two things that you should do for this channel and all of our other 7 if you aren't getting the first two shows.
Talk Heathen's your favorite, so definitely subscribe.
So like us twice.
Our self-esteem.
Click that like button twice in a row.
The last time that you and I were on, people had said, you had mentioned that I read the YouTube comments. And let me tell you what happened, Jamie. I read the YouTube comments, and I've got to tell you something.
Yeah.
What I read was the biggest group hug I've ever experienced.
I said you read them and then you take them too seriously. And if the people like you, they should put something nice in there.
And you know what? I felt the love. It's been wild. There have been things going on in my life, and it just made me really, really happy. And I've gotten to meet some amazing people. I had a gentleman stop me at SciCon and tell me that Talk Heathen made a huge difference in his life. And it made me cry right in the middle of the convention. Yeah. But we are reaching people, and it
says something about our show that I think it was maybe a minute and a half ago. You went, we have open lines, and now we're
full lines.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of these might drop or be screened out. So
fair enough.
You can still call. He is not discouraging you from calling.
Fair enough. I do have other announcements, and one I was rushing before we got this started. 1 minute before this episode started, I got the latest issue of the newsletter up.
Really?
Yes.
The latest issue of the Atheist is up.
Thinking Aloud.
That's all, folks. All right.
Our monthly newsletter is out, and it's freaking amazing. So check it out if you haven't subscribed yet or to the newsletter. You can go to any of our social media profiles. Right now, I believe we've been able to get it up on Facebook and Reddit. But after this episode, I'm going to make sure it gets tweeted out. Speaking of someone who helps us with Twitter and Instagram,
groups
it is. I just said it's on Facebook, Jamie.
You said Twitter.
Zach.
Yeah.
happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Zach.
Zach is one of our online volunteers, and I absolutely adore this person. Zach has been really, really instrumental in getting our announcements out. And Zach, your birthday was yesterday. We didn't forget it. Happy birthday, man. Also, let's see. This Tuesday, there's going to be an election party at the ACA.
Election watch party.
You're in or around Austin, come on down. We're going to have a good time. We want to bring food. Should we do like a potluck? I don't know if we've announced.
It is BYOB if you definitely want something, but there will also be some snacks and non-alcoholic drinks here. And something tells me that people are going to foresee, a desire to drunkenly celebrate another election of what has for centuries been called the alcoholic republic, or at least was throughout the 1800s. So come by, celebrate American democracy as people cast their votes and get smashed. So drink responsibly.
Unless you're here. Okay.
I
so,
did.
Let's move on to the first call. Dude, you missed me. You know it.
Yes,
I keep you on the rails. Did you get on the rails at all while I was gone?
Yes.
Really?
It's my job
I don't know.
to say the irresponsible things.
I saw shit.
Get drunk.
I saw you way out in the weeds. I wanted to fly back to Austin to bring you back. But
you didn't see anything but the conventions you were at.
I did. I watched you. I watched our show. But people are waiting for us to get to calls. Jamie?
Yeah.
Jamie?
Yeah.
We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, by the way. This has been the best year.
Yeah.
I can't wait for us to celebrate it. We've gotten over 32,000 subscribers. I checked us.
Do you think
we're no longer set to lap the AXP, though. Our subscriptions have slowed. So share this out. I want us to be the big sister show. Let's do it.
I was going to say, like and subscribe. Hey, Eric, what do you think? Do you think that we would just impromptu do something unpredictable, ridiculous, and unbelievably rewarding for our fans if we got to 35,000 before the end of November? I mean, that would be a ridiculous growth.
I would
Completely
shave my
ridiculous.
head. I would
Share
shave
it.
my head.
Tell your friends to subscribe, and then,
Let's do
whatever.
it. Let's do something over the top ridiculous.
Eric will either shave his head or not shave his head based on your votes.
And actually, you know what? I had to start putting on pants because the table is this way, but I will do an episode without pants, and a live studio audience will just have to deal with it. You can deal with the HR.
I was going to say, Eric will do a solo episode without pants.
All right. So let's start with our first caller. I've got other announcements. Obviously,
Eric Striptease.
If you're a patron, we are going to be announcing our top 5 patrons in the middle of the episode. And I've got other announcements, cool things to drop. But let's get to our first caller.
Hey.
Let's actually take Jamal in Phoenix. Jamal, you're live with Eric and Jamie.
Hello.
Hello. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I just got to say thank you guys so much. I've been listening to this show ever since you guys came on. I listened to the Atheist Experience first, and I listened to that on YouTube for a very long time. A very, very, very long time. And I never had the balls to call in because I feel like Matt would demolish me.
But
like
we're
Matt Dillahunty would.
but we're much more low caliber, right? So
I was going to say we're less of a threat. He can take us on.
Yes. Yeah. No, I don't think it's anything like taking you guys on, but I just felt like Matt would literally make me walk away crying or something.
We don't want to do that to you. But let's get to what you want to talk about. What would you like to talk about?
I kind of wanted to talk about just like simple things like why somebody would believe, because I still am a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely would say the reason why I'm still a Christian is because I was raised in the church and I see so many good things. And I guess I can say that I see prayers get answered. And I wanted to talk about if that's just like do you have any sort of explanation about why some prayers get answered and some don't? Or do you feel like that's just all random, or do you just feel like it?
It depends on the prayer. So I'm sure there are a lot of people that prayed to win the lottery that didn't. And it's quite possible that the lottery winner did pray. So in that hypothetical, one prayer was answered and many weren't. And the reason that happened is because there's only the odds of winning the lottery are low. people pray and hope and wish for lots of things, and sometimes those things that they wish for happen, and sometimes they don't. And that's what we call prayer.
And
Gotcha.
It's more than that. It's also counting the hits and ignoring the misses, right? There are people who pray for their favorite sports team every weekend, and you have to know that's bullshit, right, Jamal? Like, I mean, we can start agreeing with that.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
okay.
I definitely can agree with that.
So if you go from there, right, if you were to plot out people's prayers and find out whether or not those prayers came true or not, you would see that graph look like what we would expect random results to look like. The God gets the deity gets lost in that margin. There's just not enough data to support the existence of a interventionary God. And on top of that, you actually also said that you saw so many good things. If a group does good things, does that mean that their beliefs are true?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I mean, I guess you can say I'm a rational Christian. I do understand the possibility of good things happening within many groups. I know the atheists, I'm not even sure if you can call that a group, but many atheists do many, many good things. I know that many Christians do many good things and bad things. I know many Muslims do many good things and bad things. And if you can say that Muslims don't do bad things all the time, that doesn't mean that their faith is true.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say the same thing about many other faiths. So,
okay. That's really good to know.
I can't accept that.
Yeah. So the first reason that you brought up was prayer being answered. Is that primarily why you're a Christian?
Yeah, I mean, when you talked about the football analogy, I guess what I classify that as not a real prayer. I know when people say that, I doubt any football fan is really getting down on their knees and doing this full 30-second to minute-long prayer about their team. I'm pretty sure it's like one of those 5-second prayers you do on the couch.
So this, I think, I was going to say, this I think is one of the fundamental things that's interesting about Christianity in America is that there's this tendency to assume that most Christians are like you, or a lot of them are mostly like you. And the diversity, as far as the practices of Christianity in our country, is wide. So I think that it is not just entirely reasonable, but somewhat evident, or rather somewhat evidenced, to believe that there are Christians that pray very, very seriously for the outcome of their football team. Tebow prayed very, very seriously for the outcome of the games he was in on the field in front of the cameras. I know people that have prayed seriously.
That's true.
I'm 1 degree removed from someone who very, very seriously prayed for the fate of their favorite soap opera characters. So varieties of people pray for a variety of things. What I'm interested in is you said something like, I wouldn't call those real prayers. And I'm wondering how you make that distinction, because you said, like a 5-second prayer you say on your couch as opposed to one on your knees. Do you just mean the sincerity of the prayer?
I guess you can say the sincerity. I do have personal experience with the different sincerities of prayers. I think prayer is like many, many things. You can be very serious about it. You can be kind of throwing them out haphazardly. You can just do a 1-second prayer. Okay, hopefully that guy doesn't hit me. You know what I mean? In a car or something like that, or maybe in a fight. But the reason why I say I do have personal experience, and I'm not sure if this is just a load of crap or not, but when I was 14 years old, if you don't mind me telling this quick story,
tell
as quick as possible.
Yeah.
My father needed a kidney, and he needed a kidney for a very long time. He was under dialysis. He was very, very sick, and everybody in my family and the church prayed for him a lot. And that's why I kind of bring up the sincerity of prayer, because he eventually did get his kidney, and he still is alive and well today.
Well, I'm happy to hear that about your father, but here's my question. If the reason that you believe, or one of the things that you use as a reason to believe that a God exists, is that there was a person who was ill, that was prayed for, that later got better. I'm happy to hear that your father is better. But if you saw a person who was ill, who was prayed for, who died of that illness, would that be evidence against the efficacy of prayer?
Technically, yes.
So when you say technically yes, why is that not the same kind of yes? Right? Like if you're trying to figure out whether prayer works, and you say, well, here's something that people are praying for, and it happened, check, that's a hit. And if you say, here's something that people are praying for, it didn't happen, X, that's a miss. If you're counting the hits and ignoring the misses, then every TV psychic you've ever seen is effectively divine. Because that's a very good way that they do that. It's a point that Eric brought up. I mean, I really want to try and get you to examine this. Why would you only count some of the evidence instead of all of the evidence that's reliable?
I guess this is kind of where the argument falls apart.
Yeah.
You got the rational mind that sees that, and they analyze all the data. Mm-hmm. And when you analyze the prayers that happen and don't happen, there's no way you can call them effective. But I guess you can. The thing that I'm holding on to, and the reason why I'd still say that I believe in prayer in general.
Mm-hmm. Can I offer something up to you, Jamal?
Of course.
Okay. So you're saying that your father got a kidney, right? I'm assuming that he did not miraculously not need a kidney anymore.
No.
And that he relied on people, science, humans, to make that happen.
Yes.
Right. You know that people get kidneys replaced every day, right?
Every single day, yeah.
Yeah, while it's wonderful that it happened, and I agree with Jamie that we're glad that it did happen, it's also not a miracle. It's something that happens every day, right? And on top of that, really, if you take the framework of the Christian, generic kind of religion and overlay that, it starts looking actually worse, because what you would have is you'd have a God that fucked up your dad's kidney in the first place. Kidneys in the first place.
Oh, I don't want to think about that.
And then relied on humans to fix it, because he wasn't going to fix it, right? I mean, if you start to work backwards from there, you realize that God is also the cause of thousands of people dying every day from malnutrition and from disease, from starvation and drought. And yet you see white middle-class Americans praising their God for getting rid of their arthritis, right? Well,
yeah, when halfway across the world you got people starving.
Yeah. Well, and right here in our backyards, right, we continuously see these shootings. We continuously see people coming out after saying that they've been locked in a closet and tormented their entire life until they were able to escape, right? People who are kidnapped and people who are assaulted, right? Not only would you have to contend with that God, not just seeing it, not just being able to stop it and not doing it, but actually making it happen. Right? If you believe that God did that.
Yeah,
I think as far as feeling better is concerned, I think it really feels good to say we live in a chaotic world, but out of that chaos, we have been able to build a society. We've been able to find tools and create these, like your dad's surgery, right? We were able to get there as a society, and with human hands solved that very human problem. And that's wonderful enough, isn't it? I mean, really, I gotta say, that just gives me chills every time I think about it, that we were able to get there, and we're continually working so that we can stamp out the disease, so we can stamp out world hunger, so we can stamp out, all of this, what?
Sorry, what?
So we can... it's worth recognizing that not only is a God not only is a world without a God more moral, but I think it's more full of wonder, kindness, human empathy, and what we're able to do for each other. So think about that.
Well, I definitely will think about that, because I have to say that I've never had a true conversation with an atheist. I mean, I have a couple of friends that are atheists, but I would never dare to have like a deep conversation about it, because where I'm from, I'm raised in a full Christian family, and if the time came where I really started to look at everything differently, kind of like how I'm doing today, I mean, like when I was 14, I would never think of ever even speaking to an atheist. We're raised that you guys are like the worst people in the world.
Oh, dude!
And when I first watched the show, and no, not a problem. When I first when I first watched I do have to talk about the atheist experience for a moment. But when I first watched them, I started to realize, wait, these people they're not monsters. I mean, I have friends that are like them, and I kind of viewed them as monsters, and it kind of opened my eyes to they're just people as well. And
sure, I don't
know. It's just very strange to think that the church will have you believe that anything different is just horrible, and I don't think that's the case.
Yeah. Before this episode, I was actually talking to somebody about when I was on your side of things. When I was a Christian and I met an atheist, I looked at them to try and see if there was some kind of physical difference to be able to tell, no, that's an atheist. You can tell because their skin is
blue.
Yeah, or you can feel some negative or whatever. Vibes, and I think about it, and I think of the fear that I had of these people. And in reality, we're your neighbors, we're your friends, and we're your family. Yeah. And I've got to say, if I could clone you as somebody who I wish could be in people's families as a Christian, I would, because you have not once in this conversation said, you atheists think this, right? Not once. Not once have we brought things up and you went, no, that's not a true Christian. You started to follow into the not true prayer. But if you've watched this, I'm sure you've heard of the no true Scotsman argument, right? The no true Scotsman being, well, this is, but this isn't. And it's refreshing when we see somebody who goes, you know what? Everybody can advocate their own beliefs. You don't need to put people into these straw man positions and then attack them. So,
I know
beautiful.
I know how dangerous of a road that is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to cycle back around to what you called in about, which is prayer. I'm doing my best to remember exactly where we were in that conversation, but I was trying to get you to explain why you counted some prayers as evidence of prayer and not others. Is this something that the church you belong to teaches?
Well, the church really doesn't really speak much about those kind of things. They kind of every single day is something different. And prayer is kind of one of those things that they don't really go, at least my church, they don't really go over every day. I mean, it's just prayer works. That's what they preach. Prayer works. Don't doubt that. And it comes true if you believe hard enough.
Yeah. So there's something to be said here, which is that I think you can agree that there are people that pray. Do you know that there are people that pray with all their heart and their mind and their soul for something, and that thing does not happen, right? So there are the most sincere prayers that are not answered.
And then we're told that maybe that's God's will, and God has a bigger plan. It's kind of, I can see it now as being kind of like a scapegoat.
Yeah.
If prayers don't happen, I mean, it's
just saying.
I got this battle in my own mind that I can see the rational side and the Christian side now. I wasn't able to do that before I started to watch these kind of shows.
Yeah,
but I guess that's what they'd say after. It's God's plan, and if prayer doesn't come true, it's because God has a different plan and it's his will.
Yeah. So let me put it to you this way, and I think you've said you're starting to see this as a rational case. If there's a group of people and they believe that sacrificing a chicken is more likely to appease, the spirits of nature, we'll say, and you ask them why they believe that the spirits of nature are there and care about them, and they say, well, because when we sacrifice a chicken, good things happen to us, the things that we ask for. And you point out to them that sometimes they sacrifice a chicken and good things don't happen. Sometimes they sacrifice a chicken, good things do happen. And sometimes good things or bad things happen to them with or without the chicken. So at that point, to this hypothetical, chicken sacrificing situation, what would you think about whether or not that was sufficient evidence to believe that the spirits of nature respond to dead chickens?
I mean, you would have to say that they have no answer, and sacrificing a chicken doesn't really matter. I mean, good things, that has nothing to do with anything. That's what you'd come to that conclusion.
So now let's substitute in prayer for chicken. If you have a group of people that pray and they say, well, we believe that there is a God that answers our prayer because when we pray, good things happen. And you point out to them that, well, sometimes when they pray, good things don't happen. And sometimes when they pray, good things do happen. And sometimes even when they're not praying, good things and bad things happen. And what would you say to that group of people that said that their prayers were being answered? I'm trying not to state it too bluntly, but what's the difference?
I guess you would have to say that prayer really doesn't have much to do with it.
Right.
I hate that's the first time it's really come out of my mouth. But
yeah,
you got some applause from the studio audience.
Yeah. You're in good company, right? So what I will say is, one of the best things to do when trying to make your way through life and believe, presumably, I should ask, do you want to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible?
Most definitely.
Right. Yeah. So one of the steps that I would suggest along that way is to learn more about human biases, because we all have them, right? And I don't just mean against other people. I mean biases as far as how we afford belief, right? And so one of the things that
bias and all that kind of stuff.
And one of the things that you've said that is actually a stronger bias than confirmation bias is the bias towards what we want to have be true, right? I want there to be a good thing. Right? You can find this on game shows all the time where they're like, oh man, I hope that weird fact is true, so I'm going to say that it's true and guess it that way. And it's one of the things that you've said twice in this call, right? Like just now you went, oh man, it's the first time that came out of my mouth, and like, oh, I don't want it there. And then when Eric brought up that if there is an omniscient God, then that is also the God that's responsible for putting your father in a situation where he needed dialysis. And if I'm not mistaken, your response was, oh man, I don't want to think about that, right? So there are a lot of things that are true that I don't want to think about. Every 4 weeks, I have to pay rent, and I do not want to think about that, and I wish it wasn't true. But at the end of the day, if I operate along the beliefs of believing what I want to be true is true, then I get evicted, right? The example that I'm giving is very, very cogent, has immediate repercussions. But if I engage in that pattern of thinking for one question, I'm more likely to engage in that same pattern of thinking for the next question. It's my mind learning how I come to conclusions and using the same models to find a truth in one situation and the next. So if you're seeking to believe as many true things and as few false things as possible, and you're coming to the realization that, well, if I look at this from a logical perspective, what's prayer got to do with it? Then I would say maybe take a little bit of time and think about what conclusion you should come to about prayer.
I agree. I definitely agree. I mean, everything you said, it's just rooted in basic logic. I mean, A can't be A, and if something, it's when I take a step back and look at the whole picture about what I just said about prayer. I mean, that argument really, it's very difficult to say that prayer is real. It's very, very difficult. It is.
And I mean, here's the thing. If you come to that conclusion, the world's not going to end. You're not going to stop being a good person. And you're still going to love the people that you love. You're still going to think the same things about everything else. So I'm glad that you're open. I think that you are an exemplar of the kinds of people that I wish I could talk to every day as a theist. So thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you for accepting my call. Thank you.
Of course. And we would love to accept your call again next week. Maybe.
Sure.
Take some. I mean, I'm trying not to sound like I'm assigning homework for next week, but you should go think about this, share our thoughts, connect with us on the things online. And what I would say is, I think one of the most valuable aspects of what Eric just did in reminding you that you're open to this, and that's something that's rare, and that's something that's immensely valuable.
Yes.
Is that there's going to be a part of your brain, regardless of what the most logical conclusion is, that's going to bias you in favor of what you want to be true. And there's going to be a part of that that's, fear and loathing, right, of the conclusion and of yourself, respectively. And what Eric has done is remind you that, no, you're still Jamal. You're still a good person.
Mm-hmm.
So carry
cheers,
that with
man.
you. Yeah.
And definitely. If you want to continue to talk, we like you, man. We'll take your call again. Mm-hmm. So take care, all right?
You guys didn't destroy me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Big love bomb, especially big love bomb in the live chat. Take care, my man.
All right, you too. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That was a good start.
Was an excellent call.
Right?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Actually, I think that we can thank our call screener. We had a new person come in who's first time at the ACA, and we had all of our people who were planning on helping in the back. Mm-hmm. They all had shit come up, and so there wasn't anybody to do that. And so we had a volunteer, and in the first 10 minutes of being in the building, we're like, hey, do you want to learn how to screen calls?
Yeah.
So thank you.
So come on down, be around. That's when the opportunities arise.
Do we have the camera up in the back? Can we get a shot of the crew? Maybe later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had other stuff up, but it really doesn't matter. I do have a little bit more to say. I saw Thomas Bear walk in today. His birthday is coming up, and he actually started a Facebook. He's saying donate to the charity of his choice, which is the Atheist Community of Austin. Oh. And I do want to remind y'all that if you want to, you can set that up, and the money does come to us, and it really does help. Yeah. So thank you for doing that, and it's good to remind people of that. I also want to say that I know that I've been gone for a while, but I was on an AMA this week.
Really?
Yes.
Where were you on an AMA this week?
I was on our Reddit. If you're not there, talkheathen.com, or not talk, what am I doing? Reddit.com/r/talkheathen. Geez, I'm dusty. Yeah. It has been a while. But you know what? Do you know the kind of caliber that we've had for AMAs on our Reddits? Did you know that we had Nick Fish, the president of American Atheists? Did you know that we had Shelley Siegel? Shelley Siegel? Who's the musician?
Yes, but oh my God,
who did the score for the Atheist Experience? We've had her. We've had Genetically Modified Skeptic. We've had me. We've had Claire. We've had Anthony Magnabosco.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just fantastic. So if you haven't checked it out, do check it out. I loved it. I was answering questions. We did it for 3 hours, and I was typing furiously for 3 hours. Yeah. It was amazing. I can't wait to do that again, if we do that again.
And it won't be too long until I do one there as well. So
you know that I'm looking at our top 5 patrons, and 2 out of the 5 have $10 an episode donations.
Really?
Yeah.
They must be better, more intelligent, sexier people than everyone else in the world.
We absolutely love all of you. But if you want to get your name mentioned in the middle of this episode, you still have time. Let's see. Let's move on to our next caller.
Yep.
I see some really, really good ones, but proof of God always makes me excited.
Oh.
So I have got to go with Frode in Norway. Frode, how do you say your name?
The same question as last week. It's Frode.
Frode. Oh.
Yeah, he's a repeat caller.
I know. It was when you were on with Claire because I watched the show when I'm gone.
Yeah, so do I.
What did you want to talk about this week? By the way, it's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, Eric. Hello, Jamie.
Hello. How are you?
I don't want to forget you.
Aw. Don't you?
Unforgettable.
So what
would you like to talk about?
Launch into this quick.
I was listening back to what I said last week, and I kind of want to make 2 or 3 corrections of something I said last week. Also, I want to think, kind of bring up another thought I have had. So last week, I talked about how ambivalence led me into religion, and how it can be somewhat confusing to be so ambivalent about things. And I think it was Eric that, it was Jamie that made a joke after I hang up that I hope he doesn't lose a spoon on the floor. And I kind of made the same thing last week, but it was kind of exaggerated. But it is somewhat on that level that I feel my life has been controlled by ambivalence.
For a second, I thought you were going to say that you'd lost a spoon, and I was going to feel bad. But sorry.
No, but jokes aside, I felt that I didn't make it clear that I feel like ambivalence and God is the same thing.
Do you mean that the feeling of ambivalence is the same thing as a supernatural being that
Yes.
Wait, so the feeling itself is ambivalence is God?
As I said, yes.
So would you say that the feeling of ambivalence has any anthropomorphic qualities? Does it have eyes and ears? Does the feeling of ambivalence think or have emotions or aspirations?
Well, if you, I think God has. If we want to define God,
well, I think but you just defined.
Is it better if I say God is the course of ambivalence better than I?
Well, so if you're
clearer,
saying God, yeah, but if you just say it's ambivalence, then I would say that either A, we're anthropomorphizing emotions, at which point I would say that there are a whole lot better emotions that you can worship, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, excited, happy, loving, caring, a little horny.
Well, we
something better than ambivalent.
Yeah, we hear a lot of God is love. Situation,
but what? So you're saying that your God is ambivalent, like has the quality of someone who really doesn't care?
Yes.
Okay. Is there?
So actually, that seems almost like a slight departure from what you said last time, because last week you were talking about how your personal feelings of ambivalence led you to God, and you didn't quite say that God was, the essence of ambivalence or the source of ambivalence. So in what ways do you believe that God interacts with the world?
I think God talks to us through the things we do. I think, for example, we talked a little about, for example, sliding doors last time. He can make us late for that train because he doesn't want us to go to it because he has another meaning for us. Like there's another reason.
So in what way is that ambivalence?
in the way that I think he knows what is good for us, right? But I don't think free will exists. I think it's more that we are destined to do things, and I think that's why I have become so ambivalent, because I'm trying to listen to what God is trying to tell me.
Okay, so I actually then have two questions, just a quick clarification. When you say we're destined to do things, do you mean that because you don't believe that free will exists in a deterministic universe, we will eventually do what we're going to do? Or do you mean that God has set a path that we will eventually do X, and in order to guide us there, he will shut the subway doors early?
Yeah, more the second thing, yeah.
Okay,
definitely.
and then secondly, I would say you're saying that ambivalence is something that has led you to God because you're being ambivalent because you care about what God wants and you're trying to do with that. To me, that's the opposite of ambivalence. That's caring in the will of this God that you believe exists. So what is it that you're saying you're ambivalent to?
But I kind of want to pick up what you said there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what way?
Well, so if a person was ambivalent to God, to a God they believed in, they would say, well, that God exists, but I don't really care what it wants. But what you're saying is, I'm ambivalent. There's a God that exists.
Is ambivalent not caring, though?
Well,
ambivalence actually caring a little too much?
Well, here. So, what is it that you're using the word ambivalence to mean? Let's cut through the definition.
For me, ambivalence is seeing a choice and not have the ability to make it because you don't know the outcome of it.
Ah, okay. So you're using it to mean something like indecisiveness.
Right.
Okay.
So, but if your God created a deterministic universe, wouldn't your God have decided everything that's ever going to happen? That seems like the opposite of ambivalent, the way that you're using it.
No, I'm not saying that God is ambivalent. I'm saying that he's the source of ambivalence.
Well, if your God created the universe, I would probably say that your God would be the source of everything. No? I mean, I don't want to put words in your mouth. I don't want to create a straw man, but would you say that statement is true?
Can you repeat the statement, please?
Sure. If we're talking about the same kind of God that most people do, that God would be the source of everything, not just ambivalence, right?
Right.
Or are you polytheistic? I mean, would you say that God created everything, not just ambivalence?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So then I feel like this might be a bit of a red herring, jumping onto ambivalence when we're talking about the all-knowing, all-seeing, all-not-doing creator of the universe, right?
Other than that, it's what brought me into a God.
I mean, because right now it feels like your God is hiding in the margins of what can and can't be tested, right? It would be the God of stubbing your toe, right? I mean, it really feels like if you can build a framework where a God is not testable or is not detectable, then I would say that framework is unnecessary over the idea that, any God could exist at all. It just feels superfluous. It feels like it's more than necessary. It's just, you'd need to make a lot of logical leaps to be able to get to that over not that.
I'm not sure if I understand you.
Sure. So let's say that I'm late to work, right?
Right.
And I'm late to work because I slept late because I was up late playing Red Dead Redemption 2, which I've been doing all week, and I just slept through my alarm, right? Is it more likely that I was up late playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and slept through my alarm? Or on top of that, or would it be I was up late and I slept through my alarm because the all-seeing, all-knowing, all-creating, creator of the universe, right, who created a deterministic universe wherein that we all, follow some elaborate plan, planned that I was going to be late that day, right? There's one that is much more simple and much more believable than the other. The other has a shit ton of baggage, doesn't it?
Well, I really don't want to go into factual proof.
But so long as you're discussing a God, you are discussing counterfactuals.
Yes.
Right? Because the only way that we can entertain the idea of this God is if we listen to someone's counterfactual. We listen to them, if this God exists, then this is why it should be true, right? We're not coming up with the God definition. We wait for people to call in so that they can give us their definition for a God so we can analyze it and determine whether or not that it's a good thing to do. And as far as epistemology, I would not want to get in the habit of assuming a whole bunch of extra crap on top of things that I don't have evidence for.
So, do you want me to define God then?
Yeah,
that would be good. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, God for me is a source of. I'm not going to use a he or she because I think it's a it. I think it's a source of all things. I think it's the source of good. I think it's the source of evil. I don't think it have any big interests in us other than playing Sims, more or less. And I don't believe in the God in the Bible because I see no proof for him. I see a lot of proof for the God that I am explaining as all knowing, all controlling, all powerful.
Okay, so now I have a couple of things that I have to address, and I'm a little confused because earlier you were talking about how God might guide a person that doesn't have free will by forcing the subway doors closed earlier than they would. And just a moment ago, you've said that God doesn't actually have that much interest in human beings. I think you said other than playing Sims. Are you just addressing whether or not an all-powerful God that you believe in loves humanity, or
right? I don't especially think he loves humanity because I don't believe in the Jesus fable either. To be honest, I don't see any.
So I'm wondering how much you've looked into arguments for and against the existence of a God, particularly an omni-God, right? Because there's a problem when a person. You haven't, but when a person presents a God that is all-knowing, all-powerful, and all-good, which is that bad things happen to people that are completely beyond their control. People are ripped apart by tornadoes, for example. But it appears that what you're saying is, well, God is all-knowing, and God is all-powerful, and sometimes he gets bored with that particular Sims character and rips them apart with a tornado.
Yes.
Okay,
or takes the ladder out of the pool so they can't get
or
out.
takes the ladder out of the pool, or
start the house fire and take out all the doors.
Yeah, or builds a counter around them in the kitchen, and then time speeds up, and then they starve to death.
Frode, I'm not talking to you, but all of you assholes watching, you know you did it. I did it. It was wonderful. Okay, go ahead.
No, I never
did it as well. I love playing the Sims.
Go ahead.
But as I was saying, it's an interesting answer. But again, I think one of the things that you and I and Claire talked about last week, and sorry to throw that at you, Eric, is we talked about how it seemed like your desire to examine and your belief in a God led from some anxiety that you had about what the consequences of actions that you took would be. We recommended a couple of resources. I'm not sure whether you looked into or utilized any of them.
I did, yeah.
Oh, okay. How did that go? And which ones did you use?
I looked into one of the things I looked more into was my own like fear of ambivalence, as you call it, because as I talked to you last week, it is overpowering and it is what is kind of controlling me, and I looked into it, and I kind of feel more open for atheism after we talked, because I feel it isn't the logical step that I'm taking. I want, as the last listener or the last caller in, I want to believe as many false things as possible. So I think I've gone from I am 100% correct to at least 50.
That's good.
So here's what I will say before we go, which is before we continue, because I think there's probably a lot more to be said in this call. One of the things that's very stressful for human beings is in any situation, realizing we were wrong, particularly about something that we think is important, particularly about something that we've stated we believe in publicly or have any sort of emotional weight on. It's why it's, emotionally burdensome for someone to figure out that another human being doesn't love them, right? Human beings go throughout life not being romantically loved by most of the people they meet, right? So it's not that, ooh, there's another one, because that happens every time a baby is born. It's that this person I thought loved me doesn't. And it's a part, in many cases, in very intimate relationships, it's a part of the way they view the world and the way they live. And that kind of psychological distress also occurs when a person who has spent years and years of their lives devoted to a church, or whose entire worldview and epistemology is based on the existence of a God, if that person comes to the conclusion, well, I don't believe that a God exists because I don't think there's good reason to believe that a God exists, there's a lot of psychological barriers and emotional pain that comes with that. And even before they can get to that conclusion, those psychological barriers and that emotional pain stops them from getting to that conclusion. And so what I will say, in an attempt to alleviate any kind of emotional pain and psychological barriers as much as I can, is if you come to that conclusion, or if you don't, we're here for you, and there's an enormous amount of online communities, particularly the ones at the ACA, that are here to support you. My shoulders are tear-proof and padded, so I'm here for you.
Not true. I've used his shoulders. He's a good person to cry to. But
they have spiritual padding. That's it.
All right.
I just knew that would derail him.
Okay.
But Frode, I can't do it's probably spelled with an umlaut, and my pronunciation is off. But the last thing I'll say in this bit before I think Eric is eager to chime back in is keep thinking about it. And if your desire is first and foremost to believe what is true rather than what is false, to believe what is true rather than something that might make you feel better, keep pushing that.
Yep. And as far as the only other thing that I want to add is something from my own life experience, right? My own life experience had me at a place where I was looking at a puzzle, and the puzzle is trying to determine what is true about the world around me. And I had this piece in my hand, and it was God, and I was trying desperately to find where it fit. And it took me a long time to get there. It took me a long time to find out that it doesn't belong in the puzzle. You don't have to keep this baggage to try and find where it fits. And that's okay. It's okay to
ask a really concrete question, and I feel I kind of know the answer to this already.
What's up?
If there is no God, let's say there is no God, does that make my ambivalence less real?
So I think that where you are with the world looks the same. with, if you were to believe in a God that doesn't do anything, then removing that God really wouldn't change anything. It's basically having the exact same effect as a God that doesn't exist at all.
Right. But the reason why I am ambivalent, I think, is because of God, or my belief in God.
So, just to clarify, when you're talking about how you feel ambivalent, do you mean your difficulty in making decisions, or your ability to make decisions, knowing that...
My difficulty, the difficulty of me making a decision is because I believe that God has a plan for me, and therefore I have a harder time deciding than a lot of other people that I know that are atheists, that are not thinking about their decisions as much as I do.
I would say that whether you're a Christian or not, that is not a good way to live. Really, honestly, there is no ideology that would make that a good way to live. And I'll tell you that when I was in church, one of my pastor's favorite stories was he said that there was somebody that was in a flood, right? And the flood was coming, and he knew it was coming, and he said, you know what, that's okay, God will take care of me. So he had the chance to evacuate, and he didn't. And then all of a sudden he was stuck in his house, right? He was stuck in his house, and the water was rising, and he had a neighbor with a 4x4, said, come on, we can still get out of here. He said, no, God will take care of me. The water rose to the second floor. And there were neighbors in a boat, and they said, come on, we'll get out of here. And he said, no, God will take care of me. The water rose, and he was on his roof, and a helicopter passed by, and they said, come on, let's go. And he said, no, God will take care of me. And he drowned, right? Now, here's where we separate, because my pastor liked to say that God said, oh, I sent a helicopter and a boat and this and that. You didn't do anything. But as an atheist, I'd say, well, that was just stupid, because you passed up all of these different chances to do for yourself. But as a Christian, as an atheist, anywhere along the way, waiting for someone else's plan, right? Giving up your ability to make a choice for yourself, I don't think would be wanted whether you're a Christian or not.
But I'm not asking you to try to imagine that you're a Christian, but I'm kind of doing that in a way. If you believed in a higher power, wouldn't your responsibility to make a choice be bigger than it is now as an atheist?
I think that if you had a God that cared so much about what you following their plan, then that God would go out of their way to make that plan clear. But if your God wants to hide the message in your alphabet soup, I really don't think that that's worth following.
That's a really good point. I never thought about that.
So, all right, we've been on this call for a while.
Before we move on, you said you were comparing how responsible a person would be based on whether they believed in a God or not, as far as their decision making. And you were saying that a person might be more responsible for their decision making if they were a Christian. Did I catch that correctly?
Yes.
I think the opposite is true. So it may be that I've misunderstood some of the things that you're saying, but if you have trouble making decisions and you believe that a God is going to be there and dictate the outcome, then it seems like that would be easier to make whatever decision for whatever reason, knowing that you can throw up your hands and say, God wills it. But if you're an atheist and you believe that there isn't a God that's going to affect the outcome, that human decisions and human actions affect other humans, and ultimately you have to take responsibility for that, it seems like you would put more effort into decision making. So
I never thought about it that way at all. I to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think.
Rock on.
Yeah, we've got a couple other callers we want to get to. Yeah, this has been a great.
Right, I don't know.
I hope that you will be a third-time caller.
Yes, absolutely. We had fun. I hope I didn't offend you. I can be a little pushy.
No.
All right, so we
you just made me think, and like I said, I want to think more. So
Yeah, so we're going to let you go.
Definitely.
I hope that you have a happy week.
Take care, brother.
Like,
That was nice.
that was a nice call.
Right?
Yeah.
So I want to read some patrons. I think it's about time to read patrons. We still have a whole more show, so
Yeah, we've got
stay
a lot
freaking
more
tuned.
show.
But I want to thank Nando Gonzalez,
Nando.
our Janet Reyes, David Arland, Lynn Ann Cross, and Dale Smith. You are our top 5 patrons, and we thank you so much. If it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be able to make this happen. Really, Patreon has been the biggest spike for us in the last 3 months. I mean, holy crap. You can see us a little clearer, at least on close-ups, because we have a better camera now. We were able to get appropriate lighting, and we're working the kinks out of the green screen. I mean, they've been able to hire me. I get to do this full time. This is my dream job. I'm living my dream life. And it's because of wonderful, amazing patrons like you. If you would like to become a patron, please go to patreon.com/talkheathen to me. Even $1 an episode is huge. It really does help. And for those of you who are, I can't thank you enough. For those of you who are going to sign up, I can't thank you enough. And for those who can't, that is okay too. Last time I asked for this, people actually did it, and it really did make a difference.
Yes.
If you're listening to this as a podcast, go and rate the show on Google Play and on iTunes and whatever chance you get, Stitcher or whatever. Upvote it. Subscribe. Share. It gets us out there so more people can see us.
Particularly now, because it is only a matter of time, and this happens to, I think, all, if not most, shows that are on YouTube, and particularly those that are podcasts on Apple Podcasts, before a Christian comes through, I've seen this happen, sees the description of the show and goes through, rates the show poorly, and then puts a 1-star rating on every single episode without listening to them. So if you could get in before that happens and totally ups up our average,
I've actually
that
seen
would be
shows tank.
Fantastic. Yes.
For that. Yeah.
Oh my.
Yeah. All right. Ready to move on to the next caller?
Only after I repeat this, because someone in the live chat has said, I do my best to avoid this because it's not as fun for the viewers, but your money goes to letting us abuse Jamie more than he can handle.
That's so that is hilarious. Okay, so
Yes,
if we're talking about
to
the
which I
live
say,
chat,
they need a lot of money. Bring it.
if we're talking about the live chat, Janet, I know that Red Dead Redemption 2 is Yeehaw Skyrim. And it's awesome. It's awesome. That does not make it worse. And also, I've been watching this troll try and do everything but call in. You can always call in, friend. But if you can't, I really can't help you.
Talk to us here.
What a wimp. All right. I see Aimee in Hawaii, and I really want to talk to Aimee because Thanksgiving is coming up, and it's really important. So, Aimee,
Hi, Aimee.
you're live
on
with
the
Eric and
air.
Jamie.
Wow, that was...
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Hey.
Yeah.
What would you like to talk about?
That was weird for us, too, we promise.
Well, I specifically mentioned that I want to talk about my mom. We were raised Lutheran, she and I both. So it's a pretty chill form of religion as far as, those Christianity things go. But she was a teacher for many years, and that I feel leads to have a very deep well of affection for humans. And when she finally retired after 30 years of being a teacher, she decided to become a pastor for the Lutheran Church, which is
sorry
great.
to hear
but
that.
Please
Right.
tell me that she went to go work at, Garrison Keeler's show. No, I lost it. Fuck
no,
it. Never mind.
she's
Go ahead.
Going through
Prairie Home Companion.
Going through seminary,
Okay.
and being very learning about the Bible and shit. Which
First
I
mistake.
always wonder how people go through seminary and don't end up leaving without becoming a pastor.
I'm looking.
A lot of them
I'm
do.
looking at somebody right now on the other side of the glass who did just
Who was preparing to do that,
preparing for
yeah.
seminary and then found their way out.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind that you actually I know that one of the things that seminary students do is read the Bible. They have to know the Bible cover to cover, and I just don't understand how they can read the Bible and not go, why the fuck do we believe in this person?
So you say that, but there are graduate students on the New Testament who have been asked, actually by friends of mine, okay, so, this female graduate student, so what would you say to the advice in, and now I've forgotten the citation, the one that's, I do not allow a woman to teach or have an authority over any man, that part. And she paused for a minute and went, oh, wait, can I see that part of the Bible? Because she was unfamiliar with it. So while I have, full confidence, however misplaced, in the ability of seminaries to teach parts of the Bible, there's a lot of it that slides under the radar, that slips through the cracks. I don't think that anyone memorizes the begats. I shouldn't say that. There are people.
And on top of that, you have to recognize that when you have a flawed epistemology, right, when the way that you come to know what is true about the world has these huge glaring holes in them, it just happens. I mean, it's something that sucks, and it's something that we really want to try and lead by example on and help people through. But if you think that it's reasonable because a lot of people think it as well, you can absolutely see people getting there. And what's hilarious is it doesn't matter how intelligent you are, because actually it can backfire. I've seen it, because there are people who, I know so many other things, so I must be true about this. You have to be honest with yourself, and you have to be open to being wrong about things. And that is a hard pill to swallow.
Yeah.
Especially in the political climate nowadays. By the way, Tuesday, vote. Aimee, not just you, this is everybody listening. Vote. If you haven't voted, make sure you vote.
Yep.
I was there day one of early voting, the morning of, and I was there. I've got to tell you,
big shot over here.
We've got a lot of things coming through that impact the separation of religion and government, and can really be an encroachment on our own ability to live without Christianity being forced down our throats. So if you get the chance to vote, please vote. Aimee, I'm sorry, I totally got off track, but you had a specific topic you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, so the part of the whole situation of her becoming a pastor and having been a teacher is that she's married for 5 years and has been divorced 5 times and is now self-identifying as a lesbian. And I find that absolutely mind-boggling that she self-identifies as a lesbian, is going through seminary. She's actually planning on getting married to her current girlfriend, fiance, I guess now, in the next year. And I see all these wonderful things going on, like these great situations that she's going through. Like, she's learning so much about herself, but she's still so thoroughly indoctrinated in this religion, and it's largely because she's of the faith that Jesus is love and God is love and blah blah blah, and she doesn't really identify the parts of the Bible that are really fucked up as legitimate parts of the Bible. And I don't know how to have these kinds of conversations with her. The whole, whenever it gets brought up, she ignores it. She doesn't really communicate about it with me. And when I was last in communication with her, she specifically mentioned that she stopped following me on Facebook because I share atheist memes and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. And she specifically said, it makes me uncomfortable. And all I did was say, why? Why does it make you uncomfortable? What about it makes you uncomfortable? And she sidestepped it with like, well, it makes me uncomfortable to think of my daughter having these opinions. And I don't really think it's that it's her daughter. I really think it's the opinions and how potentially factual they may be, or how much they make her think about what she believes.
So I agree. I will say, probably on your mother's behalf, that the fact that it's her daughter makes it harder to dismiss out of hand.
I know, and that's why I do it.
And so what I will say is, how close are you and your mother, if you don't mind me asking?
We're very close. Like, my whole female side of my family has always been really close.
Sisters.
Which is why this is so hard, which is why it's so frustrating.
Yeah. So what I will say is, if you take the approach of, well, I want to have these discussions, and they're clearly causing you distress that she's avoiding them, if you tell her that and you're close, that might be enough to have a more substantial conversation about it.
Yeah.
And also, you can't force it, you know. And it may take time. And what I would say is, in the long run, model the behavior. Model, saying, it's okay, I don't know. Here's how I learn. Let's learn things together. It takes a long time. It is a long process. And especially if you're that ingrained, giving her the tools, helping her with those tools, and finding ways to use those epistemological tools outside of religion, and showing that this is why it's a good thing to believe this. This is why it's a good thing, to reject that, and how you are able to tell the difference. That could help her. That way she can start applying that without you being there, and just getting there and seeing the use of it. But yeah, I really hope things go well. I can't help but think of all the people who are going into Thanksgiving right now here in the United States who are going to be spending time with family. I've talked to a lot of people. A lot of people have been reaching out online saying, I'm going to be surrounded by people who absolutely cannot see me and not proselytize to me, or B, I can't see anyone. Nobody wants to see me anymore,
Yeah.
And
that's what Friendsgivings are for.
Well, again,
I always make sure that I reach out to anybody who needs friendship, love, affection on Thanksgiving and those holidays, because regardless of where they come from, regardless of their religious or non-religious backgrounds, like having community, having friends who care more than just about what you believe, but actually who you are and what you love and don't love, it can be life-changing.
It can. And when you have the chance to open up to other people, that is the part that comes after, right? There's the anger, there's the frustration, there's the wanting to argue about it, there's the wanting to talk to people about it. But in the end, you still have to decide how you're going to be as a person. And what we recommend, outside of just skepticism, which is incredibly important, it's humanism. It's reaching out and being a good person. And it's not saying that you've got to be under my flag or for me to care about you.
Yeah.
So cheers. I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really, really glad to hear that. And I hope that people watching who can do, because that's how we make a better world.
I agree.
So do you feel like we got to most of your question? Did you have another part of it that you wanted to ask about?
No, I think that was really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks
Big
for calling
hug.
in.
Take care, Aimee.
Yeah.
Of course, you too.
All right. Well, yeah. So now that we've addressed her question, I will say, it's important to remember that Christians are humans too. Your family, breathes air just like you, and so it's important to remember that we're all in this together. Yes, we are.
And
etc.
Also, your happiness is important. Your happiness is more important than suffering. If you're in a situation where you would be tormenting yourself because of it, don't do it to yourself. I've seen people who cannot. I mean, really, don't look forward to the holidays because it is a time of pain. Because they're knowing that they're going to a place to interact with people who dislike them, or it's a place of abuse. You don't choose your family, but you can choose your friends. And if you don't have the community, that's because you need to build it. So let's do it. All right. I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wasn't going to, but I'm glad you did. So
I'm thinking numero uno, because
let's do it.
Robert has been waiting this entire episode, and I appreciate you waiting. Robert, you're live with Eric and Jamie. How's it going? Robert. Roberto. Babe. All right, we're going to pop you back on hold in 3, 2, 1.
All right. Charles.
in Illinois. You're live with Eric and Jamie. Jinx.
We got it. Yes.
Hey.
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 What would you like to talk
this
about?
And while I am not a believer, I'm an atheist.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations.
Do you think it is possible that we're having another great awakening?
Do you mean like the second Great Awakening that gave birth to Latter-day Saints, Seventh-day Adventists, Jehovah's Witnesses, like that kind of Great Awakening?
Yes.
No.
Maybe.
I would say that the reason that I wouldn't call it a third Great Awakening is that it has a different character. So I don't see a massive theological change or a return to fire and brimstone Christianity. In fact, I see it in large part somewhat of the opposite, right? Like a regression into widespread superstitious thinking untethered from ancient traditions, right? There are a lot of, the modern equivalent of fire and brimstone, evangelical Christians out there, and there's still going to be more, and in part that's because they literally make it a part of their mission to have as many children as they possibly can so that those children will vote. They say that deliberately. And so I would say it's a period of resurgence in the idea of theocracy in our country that I don't think we've actually necessarily experienced before. So if it could be called a third Great Awakening, but it's more like an awakening of evangelical citizens and Americans to the reality that, maybe we should control the government. And I think it started in the 70s after Roe v. Wade.
I would say that it's not the Great Awakening the same way 2008 was not the Second Great Depression. Right? It's close. Shit's going on.
What I'm
People
thinking of is, we now have a significant larger number of Southern Baptist Convention people than we had in 1970. In fact, it is now the largest Protestant denomination in the Republic.
Well,
that may very well be true, but what I will say is the middle is dropping out of the religious spectrum. So casual Christians the number of that is on a decline, right? So the number of superstitious, spiritual but not religious groups is on the rise. The number of nuns are on the rise, and the number of people that scream and shout and roll on the ground in church is also on the rise.
Mm-hmm. And while they're on the rise...
But we're growing faster, so we're going to win.
Yeah.
Sorry.
We got to vote. We got to build. We got to create. We got to be there for each other. And then when they come, bring it. We'll be there. So
that's the important thing I was thinking of is that we now have a rep state, or I'm not certain, in Washington State. I think he's a state representative advocating for biblical war for those who do not submit.
Yep.
Which includes killing all males.
Yeah,
killing all what?
If you go to war against someone who does not submit.
Oh, killing all male dissenters?
Yeah, and apparently any woman that has known a male or something like that. I'm not certain if he went that far.
Oh.
And this person's running for office or is in office?
They're probably in office.
He's in office.
He's in office.
Yeah.
Get out and vote!
Don't shout into the mic.
That's worth shouting for.
Yeah, but now their ears hurt, and now they're gonna.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Reading that article about the reasons that people weren't voting because they didn't own stamps. That's why they didn't register. You can buy them at the grocery store. Additionally, you have the internet. If you cared enough about the future of your country, if you cared enough about the rights of the people that you pass on the street every day, you could Google, where do I get stamps?
Also, in the majority of states, if you want to register to vote, those envelopes they send you are pre-postage paid. So, anyway, Charles, I appreciate the call. I think it's good to be able to talk about it. I think it's important to be able to say that it's not just about, all sunrise and sunshine and rainbows. It's not just about arguing, these deep philosophical points. There's a place where the rubber meets the road. And there comes a time when you got to do something.
Yeah, time to put the pedal to the metal. So, Charles, was there another part of this that you wanted to address?
Betty DeVos attempt to, I don't know what she's trying to do to the U.S. education system, but she was on 60 Minutes and she botched every question they asked.
Yep, she's botched a lot of questions. In her confirmation hearings at one point, she was asked whether or not schools should be required not to discriminate based on how ably bodied, or based on the disabilities of their students. And the clearest that she was able to be on that was, I think that's a decision that should be left up to the states, which is precisely what a person says when they're opposed to that policy, but they can't stand up for it. That, or they're willing to kind of compromise and then wanting states to not do that anyway, right? We heard the same thing about marriage equality. I'd be willing to say I'm going to go back and I'm going to hear that about racial marriage equality as well. I absolutely wouldn't be surprised because that's the go-to. So there's a lot of things in government that are interesting, non-traditional, and somewhat horrifying for our republic.
So...
And yet a significant portion of the people don't seem to care.
Well,
and that's what I find the most disturbing about this.
I disagree. So they may not care about the same things, but voter turnout is high.
And it's not just about bugging your neighbors; it's about going out yourself too.
Yeah.
I saw a count on early voting in several states, and we've actually doubled in some places. We had for 2014 and 2016.
Which is excellent. But I think one thing... anything else? Because this conversation's slowing down. I want to make sure we're up
I was going to say, so Charles, is there another, a different point that you had that we could go to? Because I think we've hit the point that, shit's kind of fucked up right now.
Yeah.
It's
like a bummer, man.
On to another caller if you want.
All right,
I didn't. Okay.
Well, take care. Call back. Thank you so much for calling in.
Okay.
All right. Over 800 people watching right now. 191 upvotes.
I was going to say, how many
191 upvotes. Why? Why? What do you want me to do? Do you want me to strip? I'll strip. If we can get to 300, I'll strip.
What I was going to... Okay. All right.
Let's move to the next caller.
So we should get to 299
Robert.
While we're live, and then you guys can...
Let's try you again. Robert, you're live with Eric and Jamie. How you doing?
You are...
watching your show.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert.
Hey, Rob.
Long time no see, man.
I didn't say I was enjoying it.
Well, that's okay. You
Still
are one of my
no see.
favorites. Weren't you the guy who said that the pyramids were the original place of the Garden of Eden?
I'll add to that. I also said that the Tower of Babel was actually the fall of the Garden of Eden also. It was just taken by God and put into the Bible out of context on purpose.
That is...
out of context on purpose by whom?
By God the writer, through the scribes that he gave the message to.
Oh, Robert, I've been gone for 3 weeks. I missed you.
So what I will say is...
I saw the show last week.
All right, cool. Thank you for watching. I hope that you hit the like and that you're subscribed. Pound that like button. Do it. What I will say, Robert, is how familiar are you with the process that it took to come to what we now call the Bible, the modern Bible, right? Like the process of its construction.
I'm aware that it was originally oral history.
Okay.
Oral history.
Do you mean the Old Testament, or are you?
Yes, the Old Testament.
Okay, so are you aware that other cultures have used oral history to talk about their own creation myths? Would you say that those are true as well?
I'm not as familiar with the other cultures as I am with the Hebrew and Christianity culture.
Well, how familiar are you with the culture of?
I mean, you're aware that Native Americans existed and still exist, and their culture and their well.
Yes,
right, and that they have.
American.
Okay, awesome. And you realize that those aren't those original myths that they told each other. Those oral traditions were not Christian, right?
Yes, they were based on spirituality. I know.
Okay,
I know that.
So would you say that their myths are true?
There is basis to their myths. Yes, there are. The God of heaven, has His hand in everything. All
Okay,
myths,
so
all
you're
knowledge.
saying all myths are true?
Not incomplete. No, they're not completely true. No.
Okay, how do you tell what is true from what is not true? Oh shit, we hit 300. Hold on a second.
No.
350. I take this shirt off. Go on.
So sorry, Robert. We're doing a shameless plug for likes. What I will say is
much of an open-ended question.
So here's
all the religions basically tie into one fundamentally.
I think you may not be sufficiently familiar with some of the diversity that exists in these religions. When you say that all religions tie into each other fundamentally, do you mean that they are all inspired by the Heavenly Father that you believe exists?
Yes, the Heavenly Father.
So you've looked at the theologies of the world, and you've decided they are all created by the one that I've chosen.
Yes, I do.
So why would you assume that this particular theology is 100% accurate, and the others are not?
All right, basically because when the Garden of Eden fell, that was God's chosen people because they were the last two.
Okay, so, I mean, again, but that's...
to them was eternal.
Robert,
Yeah.
but that's according to the legend that you believe, right? If you chose, like, for example, if another person looked at all of the theologies of the world and went, you know what, Hinduism is the correct foundation of this, they would have a similar explanation for why Hinduism was the choice over Christianity. What is the reason that you have chosen to use, for example, the myths of the Garden of Eden and the Tower of Babel over, for example, the writings in the Vedic texts?
I think I just told the physical manifestations that God used in that region as His promises to the Israelites.
Okay, so hold on.
So there's a lot of cool shit that, people who have studied and meditated for a long period of time have been able to do in India and are still doing today. Right. Would that be evidence that Hinduism and that their religion is correct and that yours is not?
What you're saying is they can do something that I can't.
Well, no, I'm saying they do cool stuff based on meditating and whatever and defining their will, and they attribute it to their religion. Is that evidence that their theological claims are true?
I'm giving them some credence. That's correct. I'm giving them some credence for what they have.
Why?
Because God gave everybody something in the end days.
Okay, so let's bring this to your door, right? Let's bring this directly. I'm holding the Book of Eric. The Book of Eric says that I am God and that I created the universe. Do you believe my book?
No.
Why?
Why? Because
I exist. You can point to me and you can talk to me. Have you spoken to anyone else's God?
I've read other writings.
No, but if you read my book, will you believe it?
No, not really, Eric.
Why?
Because first of all, you don't believe in any power higher than yourself.
Well, I mean...
the God you believe in doesn't believe in a higher power than himself.
Because he's
I'm the stopping point.
God. There's nothing above love.
Eric loves me.
I love all of you.
Well, that's nice to know. I love
350, this shirt's coming off. So here's the question. Why don't you believe that I'm your God? Because the thing is, the reason it's important is because if you take everything as true, right? If you take everybody's religious phenomena as true, you come up with a point where, number one, you're going to get cognitive dissonance. People are just going to, you're going to have stories that can't both be true at the same time, right? So you're going to have to, at some point, pick 450 and the pants come off. So here's the deal. I better finish this show quickly.
Well, I'll jump in.
At some point, you're going to come across that cognitive dissonance. You're going to have to pick one over the other. So, you're talking about the Tower of Babel. You're talking about Eden, like these are true things, when in fact, you have to show evidence for it. Now, in the end, the question here is, Robert, do you care about whether it's true or not, or do you just like the stories?
I live the stories.
I know. Do you care? Do you care about truth?
All the time. Truth is the answer.
Okay. So what are you doing to vet your sources? What are you doing to make sure that it's true? Because here's the test. Here's the first test for you is, if you don't believe that my book is true, but you believe other people's books are true, then you've got to come up with you're going to have to figure out how to tell the difference between them.
Okay. Have you? Are there any miracles in your life that would show that you have any affiliation with a higher power?
Oh, no. I am the higher power. Actually, my miracles are in the book. I make prophecies that come true. I'm actually as old as the universe. In my book, it says that thousands of people saw me fly, raise the dead. I mean, really, I did some awesome stuff. It's in my book.
I would read it in that case.
You would read it?
Your questions are too open-ended. I've seen miracles. People walk that have never walked before, and those are modern-day miracles.
So hold on.
Miracles would pretty much have to be proved by three different sources.
If I write a cool enough book, we're going to stick a pin in that one. If I write a cool enough book, you'll believe it?
No, you'd have to have witnesses.
Okay. Where are the contemporary witnesses for the Bible?
The four Gospels are the witnesses.
Okay, no, it's in my book as well. You can't point to the book to prove the book, right? I could point to Harry Potter and say Diagon Alley in the book is proof that the universe of Harry Potter exists. That doesn't make any sense.
The world is flat. Do you believe that?
In Harry Potter?
No, today people are saying that the world is flat. Do you believe that?
That's a really nice dodge. I'd love to talk about that, but let's get back to the point. You're using the book to prove itself true. That makes zero sense. None.
There's historical data that backs the Bible.
Show me. How about we use that?
It's pretty much in the archives in the Middle East.
It isn't. But
the Romans documented their own data.
Calling that data is an insult to that concept. These things are not true, but additionally, saying that the Gospels are witnesses would suggest that you believe that the Gospel accounts are eyewitness accounts of things that happened.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any good reason to believe that those are reliable eyewitness accounts?
The spread of Christianity and present-day miracles. Yes, I do.
At the present moment, there are more Muslims on Earth than there are Christians, and we know a fuck ton about the Prophet Muhammad's life and a fuck ton about all of the children that he fucked. Why would you not believe that theology over the one that you do?
I'll tell you why God let Muslim become...
Okay, so before you get there, what I've heard you say is that, you believe that the Gospels are eyewitness accounts, right?
Yes.
Okay, and remind me one more time why you believe that they're reliable, that the things that are written in, any copy of the Bible you can buy at a half-price books right now are an accurate representation of what presumably 4 individuals saw.
The spread of Christianity, the spread of growth, happiness, prosperity.
So it sounds like what you're saying is because people believed them, they must be true. Is that an accurate representation of what you just said?
Quite frankly, it's all around. Love is everywhere, and everybody knows it.
Yeah, but that's not an answer. That's not an answer to what I just asked you. What I just asked you was, there were teachings, people followed them, and therefore that's true. It sounds exactly like that's the initial point that you're making. It may not be the only reason that you're coming to this conclusion, but it sounds like a reason you're giving for why you believe in the God of the Bible.
What can I say? God communicates with me personally. So
Really?
Okay.
Do you hear voices often, Robert?
As far as psychological testing goes, no, gentlemen.
Okay. So do you think that some people hear voices and not others? How can they tell the difference between an angel and a condition, right? A medical condition.
Yes, unfortunately nowadays.
Yeah, the reason we're going off on so many tangents is because instead of answering the questions or saying, I don't know, you're coming up with more, and then we're going off down rabbit holes.
Yeah.
Right? The core of this is, how do you get to determine what is true from what is not true? You said a whole bunch of biblical stuff. I think I saw Eric, I think I saw Matt's eyes pop out of his head when he heard you talking about the Tower of Babel. Because, holy crap, that's not even in its own mythology in that order. But that's fine, because I don't believe that either. Right? So here's your homework. Right? You can call back to the show when you can tell the difference between my book and yours, a way that I can use and I can test. Can you do that?
You know, when I grew up, I was known not to do my homework.
You know, when I grew up, my mom told me, if everybody jumped off a cliff, would you? Right?
And that's a good thing to say if you're hanging out with a bunch of people that might be jumping off of cliffs.
Agreed, which is why you should not use the reasoning, everybody else believes it, it's spread, therefore it must be true.
Actually, I'm sorry. The best thing to say is, well, what would be the actual consequences if you jumped off that cliff? Whether there are other people jumping off that cliff or not, it's either a good decision or a bad decision for you to jump off that cliff. And the thing that we are proposing is that if you want to determine whether or not you jump off the cliff of randomly believing something based on faith, you should determine whether or not there's any good reason to do that. And let me tell you, you're going to land and be flat on your back without a good reason, based on what you're saying.
You're assuming that I was raised in a religious home.
I'm not.
I do not know I was raised in the world.
I'm not assuming you were raised in a religious home.
Well, that was the statement you made. I know for a fact that you were raised in religious homes and turned away. We're at the complete opposite ends of the spectrum here.
So it's interesting that you call those two sort of binary definitions a spectrum. I don't think that's related to what I was trying to say. In fact, I know it's not at all related to what I was trying to say. I'm sorry that if you heard that assumption. I have no idea how you were raised, where you were raised, when you were raised, or how old you are. But absolutely none of that relates to whether or not, well, hey, a bunch of people believe this, a bunch of people believed this, and now those people are happy, therefore this is true. I do not think that is good reasoning, and I can tell you why I do not think that is a reliable path to come to a true belief, because that exact same path has been used by millions of people to come to completely contradictory beliefs. If I have a method that I'm trying to use to determine whether or not a proposition is true or not, and that same exact method can be used on the same proposition and come to completely contradictory conclusions, I conclude this method is not reliable because it does not produce reliable results. And I would advise that you do the same.
The question was secular sexuality and how it pertains to the kingdom and above.
Here's Robert. Robert.
Yeah.
We actually spent 15 minutes before you got to secular sexuality. I really want to hear it. I really want to hear what you have to say, but your key to entrance is being able to tell me how to tell the difference between my book and yours.
All right.
Okay?
Very good.
Yeah.
All right.
Can we count on your call again next week?
I will try. It depends how much information I have to read to see where we are in a week from now.
Oh, my beautiful butterfly.
And also,
no offense, it's a nice invitation.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I hope that you do. And additionally, I'm not sure whether you're aware that the ACA produces show Secular Sexuality, Mug to be seen in the foreground in the center, and they take calls.
A lot of your shows that take calls.
Yep.
You spend your lifetime taking calls.
So
I'm happy to do that.
because here's the deal: we're trying our best, and we want to be there for people. Yeah. But Robert, I look forward to hearing from you again.
I really hope you call in again. The only reason we're dropping you is because we're out of time.
Yeah.
That is fine. You have a good week. Take care.
You too, brother.
How many likes?
Did I say 400 or 450?
You said 450.
I said 450.
And we are wrapping up the show. And 23 likes away. 40 likes away from this.
So let's get some love.
You're not going to give them any more time to get it. Let's.
I've been going to the
friends, gym. Log into your second account. Log into your third account.
So, Jamie, it's been 3 weeks since we've done this.
It has.
And we want to say, and I'm so happy to be here to say, that if you don't believe,
you have community here, you have community everywhere.
You belong, and it's okay, and it's going to be okay.
That do believe,
we don't hate you. We just think you're wrong.
You should think about it. Look into it, bro.
I was really going to take my pants off, dude.
I believe it. I think if this episode and the next episode that you're on and the episode before it get 400 likes, you should take your pants off on that.
We'll see.
Hopefully we're still live. 449. They almost got you, bruh.